Our third session today is a library website redesign in the time of COVID by Erin Rushton and Bern Mulligan from Binghamton University Libraries. Erin Rushton is the head of digital initiatives and resource discovery at Binghamton University Libraries, and Bern Mulligan is an associate librarian at Binghamton University Libraries. Erin and Bern, if you're ready to go right ahead.
Okay, can you see the slideshow?
Looking good.
Good, okay, thanks. Thanks, Joe. So thanks everyone for attending our presentation this morning. Bern and I are going to talk about the process of redesigning our library website during these unprecedented times, unprecedented circumstances, as these times have been called. You know, our website is our most important tool for scaling up our services to our users. The library website is as important as a physical library, maybe even more so in this digital age. We know there may be others in attendance today who have also redesigned their websites during the pandemic, but we just wanted to share our experience since we know a library website redesign project can be daunting, even during normal circumstances. And what we hope to demonstrate in this presentation is that a library website redesign can be accomplished in a reasonable time frame with a dedicated team using a variety of tools.
So a truism in website redesign is that your current website is never more popular than when you take it down. However, the new website was successfully launched to general approbation and is considered a functional and cosmetic improvement over the old website. We were pleasantly surprised how little negative feedback we received. People just started using it, which maybe is the highest compliment paid to a design team.
So originally our plan was to launch both the new library website and implement Alma and Primo together. But, you know, however, we realized that tackling both at the same time was not realistic. So after Alma was implemented in summer 2019, our intent was to have a library website up before the 2020 fall semester. You know, and despite hangover fatigue from the Alma migration, we started planning the website redesign project for late fall 2019. So we're now going to talk a little bit about the web team, which is a group that has historically led website redesigns at our library and also maintains the website by updating content.
So this is Dave Bose, all around good guy. Dave and I go way back and have participated in at least 10 redesigns together over the years as part of many permutations of the web team. And just to show you how far back, brace yourselves. Like baby's first shoes, this is the library's first website, aptly courtesy of the Internet Archive's Wayback Machine. This website was already in place when we started in 1996, but we joined the web team that year and have been part of it ever since. And just to further date this, the browser of choice at that time was Netscape.
So I've also been on the web team for many years and have also participated in many redesigns. You know, so everyone knows that one of the prerequisites of our meetings, our Friday meetings when we met, was to take turns bringing bagels and juice. So by the end of the project, we got to know really well what type of bagel each of us preferred. And at the end of the meeting, it was always important to ask, whose turn is it to bring the bagels next week? The other member of the web team is Ben Corey, and he's our library's digital designer. And Ben had been recently hired to work on web development and design. You know, and Ben has mad skills when it comes to programming, user experience, and accessibility. And we never had anyone with Ben's expertise and knowledge, so we were certainly looking forward to working on this project with him.
So this is the timeline for the project. Because it took 10 months from start to finish, it spills over onto a second slide. We will be referring to it a number of times throughout the presentation. The The project occurred basically in two phases, before COVID and after COVID. All of what occurred before COVID was done in person. All of what occurred after COVID was done virtually, via email, phone, and as was the case with most organizations during the pandemic, via Zoom. And the pace of the project accelerated as the months moved forward. For example, there were 16 in-person meetings from November to March 12th. There were 25 virtual meetings from March 17th to the end of June. There were 23 virtual meetings in July and August. All told, there were 64 meetings during the 10 months. During July and August until launch, our real jobs pretty much took a back seat to this project. That's all we worked on. We were meeting sometimes twice a day, and that's not counting the incidental phone calls between individual members for questions about sticking points in the process. So now I'll turn it over to Erin to talk about the process in more detail.
So this is a slide from one of the presentations we made to our stakeholders outlining our goals and objectives. And I won't go over all the points, so just to highlight a few. So first of all, we really wanted to update the look and feel of the site by migrating to the new university templates. It was very important for us to have a user-centered, data-driven design. And over the years, there had been many website development requests that we had postponed. And so we wanted to be able to accommodate these improvements and these enhancements. As noted previously, having a user-centered design was important to us. So we immediately began scheduling meetings with a variety of library departments and committees. We also planned to hold focus groups with faculty and students. And it was important for us to get input from each of these groups because we wanted everyone to feel represented by the project. And we also wanted to be transparent. And in general, each meeting, we asked questions about how the website was working for their area and what improvements they wanted to see. We also provided a snapshot of the website for each area, which showed current usage statistics. And here's an example of a spreadsheet that we created for special collections. And as you'll see, we relied on spreadsheets like this throughout the entire process to keep track of our decisions. We met with our student advisory group, which we call Slack. And at this meeting, we asked the students a variety of questions, including why they used the library website and what they liked or disliked about our current site. And I thought I'd just highlight a few points that were raised at that meeting. So first of all, none of the students regarded the website as a destination for research. So while they had, maybe used the website, they weren't particularly familiar with it in its entirety. Second, if students wanted to know something, they just Googled it. If they want to know something about the library, such as hours, they just Googled hours and libraries or Binghamton libraries. And the other interesting thing that came out of the meeting was we had our Ask a Librarian service promoted in several places on our website, but none of the students in the group had ever noticed it, nor were they aware of the service. So then COVID happened.
As you can see from the timeline, we met with Slack on March 12th. By the following week, everything abruptly shut down. For a few weeks after, the priority in the libraries was transitioning to remote work and providing virtual library services. We felt we were fortunate to have had the in-person meetings with our stakeholders before the work from home phase because we had established the foundation of what we needed to accomplish in the redesign. Once we felt ready to resume the project, we had to reassess how we would continue it remotely.
So we met with our university communications and marketing department, since they're the department on campus who is responsible for on the updates, and that's the university's website platform. And we'd actually worked with communications and marketing on our last redesign. So, the purpose of this meeting was to talk about our plans and to get an idea of what sort of support their area would be able to provide. And these are just, again, some example slides of that. So the next significant part of our project was reviewing our current pages. And I've already shared an example of how we did this for, the special collections department, but I want to say a little bit more about this process. When we first thought we were going to do the redesign in 2019, we had a student worker, his name was Devin. He mapped the structure of the website in a Google Doc, and he also compiled all of our Google Analytics from the last 3 years.
We literally spent hours poring over this document. It was the gospel according to Erin.
It really was, because it's really helped us identify which pages we were going to migrate, mostly as is, which pages would be converted to LibGuides and vice versa, which pages would need additional review, and which pages we would be able to delete. So to say a little bit more about LibGuides and web pages. So we've had LibGuides for almost a decade. And initially LibGuides were intended to be used primarily as subject guides. But over the years, some of our web pages have been turned into LibGuides. And so having content on both LibGuides and web pages was sometimes confusing. So as part of our website redesign, we worked closely with our collections and instruction department to make decisions about where content should be located. So now most of the content on LibGuides, again, is just subject and research guides. And as you can see from the spreadsheet here, many of the guides that we had were retired. The ones that we did keep were all updated. And we also made sure that each guide had an author who would be responsible for updating the content.
So this is our former website, again, courtesy of the Wayback Machine. Originally, we planned to do a physical card sort like we had done in past redesigns. We had even created the cards. We had planned to have an all-day card sorting event, complete with pizza, to simulate the current website's architecture, but COVID changed all that. Since we were meeting virtually, we had to think of another way to accomplish this. A breakthrough occurred when Ben introduced Trello, an online collaboration and project management tool, which allowed us to work together on the architecture of the new site in real time via Zoom. We recreated the existing main navigation categories and the pages that fell under each of those categories in Trello. There had been a feeling that 6 categories were too many for users to choose from. We spent a number of meetings in May discussing and debating what the new navigation categories should be and where pages fit under them. And Trello made it easy to create. I'm going to do a little demo here. So there's how you would create a card and move them around, which is what we did quite a bit. So we folded locations and collections and special collections into about and folded search and find into research because we felt this made more logical and functional sense, which left us with the 3 we have on the current site: about, services, and research. We added a top-level link to my account because this was also something users had been asking for.
So returning to our timeline for just a moment. So by the end of June, we had more or less completed the following. We had met with our available stakeholders. We had identified what content we needed to migrate. We had identified what content we needed to create, and we also had a new site architecture. I'll be honest, at this point, I was feeling a little bit anxious, and I really felt that we had to focus on migrating content and designing the home page. I should mention at this point as well that there is another group in the libraries that I also chair, which is the User Interface Steering Committee. And this committee has oversight over the web team. And the committee includes the web team members and also representatives from different departments in the library. And so during the redesign process, this was a group that we would convene to get feedback and to discuss our progress.
On July 2nd, we met with Collections and Instruction to discuss how the search box on the homepage should look and function. It was no mean feat coming to a consensus on this. We were on a tight schedule, but we wanted to be sure that we heard everyone's opinion. Taking their feedback into consideration, Ben then had the ultimate challenge of coding and designing a functioning search box. For the last 3 weeks of July until launch, we met on a daily basis, sometimes twice, as we began the daunting process of migrating all the lower level pages.
And we definitely felt pressure to get the project completed on time. So the next priority at this point was, again, to actually design the website, including the home page and some of the lower level pages. And the lower level pages weren't too complicated, since we were more or less using the templates, the university templates. And so once Ben had done, some customization for us, he was able to provide us with a migration guide.
This was the gospel according to Ben.
So in order to facilitate migrating the content and to make sure that all content that we were migrating was reviewed and updated, we required input from several departments. So for example, I've talked a little bit about collections and instruction and how we updated, that section of the website with input from that department. In order to facilitate, the updating of the rest of the website, we copied the content of every single page we were migrating into a Google Doc. And this, of course, allowed for collaborative editing. And then once the page was edited and updated, Bern and I could just copy and paste the content into the new template. So as you can see from the screenshot, it wasn't a radical redesign of most pages. The most significant changes were the relocation of the navigation column from left to right, and some new features that were included in Omni Update, such as the ability to add contact information. Of course, there was lots of formatting that we had to do, such as adding headings and hyperlinks, and some behind the scenes work, such as creating page descriptions and adding keywords for search engine optimization. We also had to pick a photo banner for each page. And, we had planned to have, originally had planned to have the university photographer take new photos, but because there weren't any students on campus and because hardly any staff were on campus either, we had to rely on photos of our spaces that he had already taken. And we were again tracking all the migration on a spreadsheet. And this is a document. This is a document that we used. It contained the new architecture of the website, and it had links to those Google Docs that I just previously showed, so you could easily, get to that web page or get to the document with the content in it. The spreadsheet also showed who was responsible for reviewing the content of each page and the status of where we were with the individual pages. As Bern and I, we really continued focusing on the migration of the lower level pages. While we were doing that, Ben focused on creating the pages that required some, additional coding and customization. So our more complex pages, such as the Ask a Librarian page, the staff directory, and the library tutorials. And he, at the same time, was also working on the homepage design. And so one of the tools that Ben used to help with the mock-up was Adobe XD. And Adobe XD is a design tool in the Adobe suite used for prototyping user interfaces. And so he was able to create an interactive wireframe for the homepage and landing page. And that allowed us to discuss the interfaces and make changes without a lot of time spent on mock-ups.
On August 7th, we met with communications and marketing again to go over our design and get final approval for our homepage. We also previewed the site to library people at an all-staff meeting later that day. The final week before site launch was dedicated to special collections pages, which had embedded links for finding aids. And the last day was spent going through and making sure everything was in order before launch.
Make this bigger here. So this is our website. We launched the Redesign website on August 19th. And just to highlight a few of the features that we talked about. So now it has a large hero photo, which can easily be changed depending on what it is we want to promote. This is our redesigned search box that Bern was talking about. This is the design that we came up working closely with our collections and instruction team. Our popular links are featured on the homepage. We have a dynamic news section, and this pulls directly from our blog software, and it can be automatically updated, so someone doesn't have to go in and hard code the updates to our news section. And then since Special Collections was bumped from the top navigation bar, it was given a prominent, visually attractive place on the homepage. So, the process we initially envisioned didn't work out because of COVID. For one thing, although we met with our student advisory group, we never really got to have focus groups, say with our teaching faculty. But, thanks to Zoom and other online tools, we were able to gather user feedback and input from our crucial stakeholders. We were able to get the website up by fall 2020, which was our goal. And certainly while there was some stress with tackling a project like this in the middle of the pandemic, we felt that actually working remotely helped us be more productive and successful. We were really able to focus almost exclusively on this project, and we were less impacted by, I think, some of the distractions that sometimes happen in the office environment. We also felt that the quick adoption of Zoom made us more agile about scheduling and holding meetings.
And so I'd just like to take a moment here to mention how fine a job Erin did managing this project. From start to finish, she tracked all aspects of it and kept us on schedule. At first, I'd come to a meeting and think, oh no, another spreadsheet. But without her attention to all these details, there's no way we would have pulled this off on time. Okay, I'll turn it over to the people for the Q&A now.
All right, thank you very much for that. Website looks great. We have a few questions in the Q&A and about 6 minutes with which to answer them. So people feel free to put more questions in. First question, what platform did you use for development? WordPress?
Oh, it's Omni Update. So that's the platform that our university uses for the website. And that's the one, our previous website was also on, our previous design, I guess, was also on Omni Update. When our previous design launched in 2013, and so that was our first time kind of joining, the university's web platform.
Okay, thank you. How do you define research guide? And do you still find that there is a lot of duplication of content between the website and guides? Do you have any other specific criteria of what goes where? We struggle with this.
I don't know, Bern, if you want to take the research, how we define that. I would say we have far less duplication. And how we kind of just define it more or less is, I would say if it's like we're describing a service that we provide, that information would go onto our main library website. If you're trying to explain like how do you do something or kind of identifying resources for an area, that content tends to be on LibGuides now.
Okay, thank you.
I saw one of the questions. It says it's Omni Update is the name of the content management system.
Thank you for clarifying that. Next question. On the new website, what drove your decision to move the navigation menu from left side to right?
That was part of the templates. Communications and marketing felt strongly that that's where people tend to go to look for that information. I'm sure some people here disagree. I know that was an issue with Primo implementation, that they also, I think the default navigation was on the right, and we stuck to left. But yeah, for the website, communications and marketing felt that the navigation should be on the right-hand side.
All right. Did you incorporate testing with users, for example, card sorting with students, faculty, et cetera, usability testing with the wireframe, et cetera?
No, I mean, really, there wasn't anyone to actually do this with at the time. I mean, this was just as everything had shut down and then into the summer. And as we said in our presentation, we did have, right before everything shut down, we had a meeting with our student library advisory group, but we weren't able to do any, focus groups or anything like that with faculty.
Okay, thank you. Next question. What is your routine maintenance schedule for the website moving forward?
I want to say we have a scheduled, we're always sort of, reviewing different areas. And so there was certainly some areas of the website where, we were able to update the content, but we feel that there certainly can be additional improvements with, or, something, now that students are back and, faculty are back, maybe areas of the website we could revisit, and maybe, as many redesign projects. So for example, our research pages we've just started to talk about. We've also want to do some, we got, special collections. I think there's some areas as well that we can, or just some ways to kind of improve that section of the website. But it's not, I wouldn't say that it's particularly scheduled at this point. They're more of projects, upcoming projects.
Okay, next question. Did you look at the new website through a culturally responsive lens for it to be more inclusive?
Great question. I can't say that we did that. We just created a new office in our library. It's the Office of IDEA, and that might be something to discuss with that area. But yeah, unfortunately, that wasn't necessarily something we were able to do for this redesign. But
however, I mean, we did accessibility was something that Ben is very conscious of, and made sure that those aspects of it were taken into consideration.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it looks like we have one final question in the Q&A, just in time. Have you received feedback that tools were hidden before are being more frequently used, such as chat with a librarian tool that you mentioned earlier?
I wouldn't say we've had a lot of feedback. And that's kind of another goal of our, the overall project is to kind of go back now and do, I think, some assessments on some of the changes we made to see, were they effective? Certainly looking at some of our Google Analytics, or, maybe again, kind of trying to meet up with students and faculty to get feedback. But we didn't, I think Bern said at the beginning, we didn't actually hear a whole lot, when it was launched, which we sometimes think is a good indication that people are finding what it is they're looking for.
And since the new design, we also implemented another chat service that our reader services hold, because what we were noticing, we were getting things on our Ask a Librarian that might not be research oriented. So we tried to kind of split some of those things out. And so now there's another chat that is more dedicated to more, pedestrian things. And then, the research questions have been, moved over or segregated over to the Ask a Librarian area.
All right, thank you. That's all the time we have. There's one more question in the Q&A, but we're going to forward that on to you folks, and you can give us the answers, and then we're going to share all the leftover Q&A with all the attendees today.